I can hear the eye rolling and teeth gritting from here. A winter storm this weekend? Seriously? I thought it was spring. Well, even though the calendar officially says spring, we know as North Country people we're not out of the winter yet. But we can dream, right? We visit a tulip farm in Vermont where spring is in the air. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Clarkson University, offering over 95 programs of study with campuses in the Hudson Valley, Central, and Northern New York. More at clarkson.edu.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Friday, March 28th. First up, the CBS News program 60 Minutes recently visited the North Country for a segment on illegal immigration at the U.S. Canada border. They spoke with a man who says he smuggles people and drugs in the area for a notorious Mexican cartel. Kara Chapman reports.
The North Country's border with Canada is part of U.S. Customs and Border Protection Swanton sector. It's where most of the illegal crossings into the U.S. from Canada have taken place over the last few years. Many migrants are helped across by smugglers they find on social media. In last Sunday's broadcast, 60 Minutes spoke with a man they found on TikTok who says he coordinates pickups and drop-offs of migrants in northern New York. He told correspondent Cecilia Vega he works for the Sinaloa cartel. The Mexican crime syndicate was recently designated a terrorist organization by the U.S. and Canada.
How does this work? They tell you where to go? They tell you how many people you have to bring across each week?
Exactly. That's how it goes. They provide the people. They have more people who are behind all this, looking for customers, finding them, and summoning them to certain locations.
Several migrants have died trying to cross the border into the North Country, where they can face treacherous terrain and weather conditions. In March 2023, 8 people, including 2 children, drowned in the St. Lawrence River. Later that year, Ana Cara and Vasquez Flores of Mexico drowned in the Great Chazy River in northern Clinton County. Authorities say both incidents involved smugglers. The man who spoke to Vega said migrants are held hostage and not allowed to cross the border until they've paid. And he said people aren't all he smuggles.
How much fentanyl do you move across that border?
Lately, it's been quiet, but for a while there, we were bringing in 30 kilos per month.
Wow. The drugs come from China?
From China.
The China.
I get more into the U.S., but also it goes from the U.S. to Canada, and weapons.
The amount of drugs and people smuggled across the Canadian border is a fraction of what gets into the U.S. from Mexico. But President Donald Trump has proposed 25% tariffs on goods from both countries to get them to address those issues. Canada had already committed more than $900 million to beefing up border security last December. But that wasn't enough to stop a trade war between the two countries, ignited by Trump's on-again, off-again tariff threats. The uncertainty has fueled tension and left border communities that rely on the relationship with Canada in limbo. Federal data show illegal crossings at the northern border have been on the decline since last June. Clinton County Sheriff David Favreau told 60 Minutes he credits Trump's immigration policies for the recent drop. He told Cecilia Vega he welcomes the lull in activity, but doesn't expect it to last.
When the numbers are down, it gets eerily quiet. We kind of worry about quiet. We like it when things are just steady so that we know what's going on, have a better handle on it.
You don't trust the quiet, that it's going to stick?
We just don't trust that quiet is going to stick.
The smuggler told 60 Minutes that things haven't gone quiet. He says the Sinaloa cartel has had to change how it moves drugs at the border, but not the number of people it smuggles into the U.S.
What has the return of Donald Trump meant for your business?
There's always going to be business. Later on, Donald Trump's time will pass, and this will continue. This is not going to stop.
He said nothing can stop them, including more Border Patrol agents and checkpoints. Kara Chapman, North Country Public Radio.
All right, let's decompress. Get a salve for all that ice and sleet and snow we're expecting this weekend. Vermont Public's Brittany Patterson spent an afternoon with Sarah DeMars at Four Blooms Farm in Bristol, Vermont, where the tulips are already blooming and the perennials are growing.
Why are tulips the spring flower?
I would say tulips are the spring flower because they're one of the first flowers that come emerging from the ground as the temperatures start to get warmer. Typically, the daffodils will start to rise, and then the tulips start to rise, and the peonies and the hyacinths, and so many incredible flowers start emerging in the spring.
Perfect spring day.
Yeah, it really is. When spring comes, it just feels like a new year, almost like a new chapter, a new beginning. All the things that you reflected on the past year are finally going to come to life. And so with that, there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of motivation, there's so much excitement, and then there's also a lot of work. So this is one of our greenhouses. Currently we have about 14,000 tulip bulbs in here. So just within this last week, I've ordered about 80% of our bulbs that we will receive in the fall. So those come between like October and November. So when they arrive to our farm, we either dump the crates in a greenhouse, we'll dig a trench, plant them, water them, cover them, and we'll leave them. I have not had to touch these at all this winter, really just a little bit of watering. And then the ones that we force in crates, we think of a crate as like a movable raised bed. So we fill that with some soil, we plant our tulips in there, we water it, cover it, and then we give them like a winter period. And when they're ready for spring, we move them out into the grow space, and we give them warmer temperatures and sunlight, which in our case is grow lights. From there, it takes about 3 weeks on average to come into bloom. Harvest them, process them, which could be like stripping the leaves, cutting the bulbs off, and then we'll bundle them up, wrap them, and we'll send them out to our markets.
Do we have any in bloom?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes, so those are indoors. Yep. We did have to harvest a bunch, but I kind of like shuffled some crates around so that you could see a table in full bloom, which is fun. So what I really love about growing tulips indoors in the winter is like it could be 5 degrees outside, and then I come up here and it's like 65 and sunny, but it's really, I mean, it's our lights. So I feel like I've been living in spring all winter. Excuse the mess. So right now, with it being like the middle of March, our season indoors is coming down, and we only have a few more crates to pull in, and then our ground plantings will start to bloom. So currently in here, we just started a lily crop. We have tulips here. We're testing out hyacinth, allium, and daffodils, and then the rest will be all tulips. So we kind of grow in 2 spots. This big room, they are growing a little bit cooler, so they grow a little bit slower. And then in here, this is like our main grow space. So this grow space is warmer, and there's 6 tables. So we usually have, I think, around 10,000 growing at a time in various stages, from like just getting pulled in to ready to harvest.
Wow, 10,000.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So for Valentine's Day, we had literally every like inch of space was covered with tulips. We were growing about 15,000 at the time for Valentine's Day. Kind of like our crate tower. We had over 500 crates that we planted with tulips. So this was our cooler, and it was chock full. And I will say one cool thing about flower farming I'm finding is I could be in the current season, but I'm already so excited for the following season. Like, I'm already so excited for our next tulip forcing program. I'm already so excited for next spring. It just makes you like feel so joyful all the time.
So you basically get a little bit of that spring feeling all the time.
Oh yeah. It's great.
That was Sarah DeMars with 4 Blooms Farm in Bristol, speaking with Vermont Public's Brittany Patterson. We have more news all the time and through the weekend on our website, ncpr.org. Music today by Caitlin Scholl of Lake Placid and Oscar Sarmiento of Potsdam. Have a great weekend. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.